Most experts around college football don't believe that Indiana can get back to the playoff, but I may have found one who does.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. It's literally tomorrow. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. I'm your man, Jacob Goins, and we got our guy, Brian Smith, host of the Portal Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. He's also a recruiting expert as well. We're going to talk Indiana recruiting. We're talking Fernando Mendoza, and we're talking the college football playoff because, Brian, I know you've seen it. Most people don't think Indiana can repeat the success they had from a year ago, but while you may not be a full believer, you see how it could happen for the Hoosiers.
Well, there's a couple main reasons. Number one, the staff really hasn't changed. I'm a big Mendoza guy, so I'm in high school. I've seen him play live in college. Having a quarterback like him that's going to get drafted, yeah, that matters. They've got good running backs. They've got pretty good players in the trenches. And by the way, this just in, they may have the best defensive end in college football in Kamara. Like he wants 20 sacks this year. I don't know if he's going to get to that. But those are really good starting points. And oh, by the way, they still have Aiden Fisher. So they're going to at least be at a pretty good bowl game. It's going to come down to a couple games that I think everybody knows about. And then that Illinois game as well.
Well, there's so many people that I keep talking about it here on the show. I truly believe, Brian, that most people haven't taken the time to look at the Indiana roster that didn't lose a ton from a year ago other than your starting quarterback and Curtis Rourke. Yes, but you replace him with somebody who's just as good, if not better, and Fernando Mendoza, who we'll talk about later. But I just don't think many people have looked at this roster before they say, oh, no, Indiana's not going back to the playoff. It's just the inevitable step back season is upon them, Brian. That's what most people are saying.
Well, you got to remember, I'm going to get ready to turn 52, and like Indiana, this is the first time Indiana was ever good in my lifetime.
Sure, totally understand.
That's the problem. Yeah. Like it's different if a team steps up for year 2, year 3 to year 4 doing it. They only did it once. Yeah. So people in today's era, they like to doubt. Okay. So Indiana's got to prove it, but the schedule, while a couple of road games are really difficult, it's still not terrible. It's not as easy as last year, but it's still not terrible. And again, you hit the main point. They got the quarterback that, like, to my knowledge, Georgia wanted Mendoza, which tells me all I really need to know. And they also have a lot of guys in the trenches that have a chance to at least have a cup of coffee in the NFL. If you have that combo, quarterback and trenches, with this staff, it's proven. I like their chances, but again, at least being at a very good bowl, and if things break right, it's not out of the question going to the last weekend, which, by the way, they'll kill Purdue, that they're in the conversation for the playoff. We'll have to see, but they're in that race until otherwise proven. So, by the way, as an extra, this is the kind of fodder that Nick Saban would have just been like, please motivate my players because nobody's picking them.
Well, can Curt Cignetti do the same thing, who is not a carbon copy, but he is at least he's under that tree. He's under that Saban tree.
That's right. He's a little different in how he approaches the public opinion part of his program, obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's okay. Everybody's got to have their own personality.
Sure.
Indiana knows that they're on that cusp. Like they're 8-4 or better. That's how I see them this year. If they don't win at least 8 games, something went wrong. An injury or the chemistry was just terrible. Something just really went wrong. When was the last time you said that about Indiana? Hint, never.
Yeah, never.
So if you're an Indiana fan, this is house money, brother. This is house money. So enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. Well, hey, you cover the Portal on a daily basis with the Portal Podcast, which is, of course, a part of our Locked On Podcast Network. And look, Indiana's got several dudes. You speak of the trenches on the offensive line that will most likely be starters. Pat Coogan is one of them who will be the starting center from Notre Dame. Also looking at a possible right tackle, right? You've got left guard, left tackle things. You've got several options at the offensive line. But if it is 3 starters up front, does that concern you about an Indiana team playing in the Big Ten week in, week out?
The biggest thing with that is they got guys that have a lot of talent that are seniors. That helps. As a general rule, I don't want portal guys on my line if I can help it. Yeah. But if you got to do it, take those. So they got the happy medium. And they also got like Coogan. He was a really good player at Notre Dame. That's a kid everybody's pretty much familiar with. He could have went a lot of places. Having him as your pivot guy, as a fifth-year senior, that's gold. So that'll really help Mendoza be acclimated. And then on top of it, it also helps some other guys that are younger, maybe a year away, not be forced into action. Like that's when you put freshmen or sophomores into the lineup at O-line of the Big Ten that aren't ready, it goes very poorly. So They did what they had to. So I'm okay with it, but they had to do what they did when they got there because they didn't have a cupboard full of 4 and 5 stars here. Like they got to make it work. Slowly, you want to reduce the number over time, how many you take. Like I think it's that I read on Peegs, they've over 50 new players combined from the portal in the high school ranks this year. That is not ideal.
Yeah.
They did a lot of that last year. I know some of them they brought over from their old program, but still.
And they were active in December, in the December portal too. Very, very active.
I expect they'll be active again this year, but it'll be a little more reduced each year because their high school recruitings went up exponentially. So this is just part of the process, and they're building something that has literally never taken place in Bloomington, Indiana.
And so for you, no, I'm with you. Khalil Benson, the Colorado transfer, Zim Mikulski, the Ohio State transfer, who I think are projected starters on that offensive line. But even if the team's good, Brian, even if Mendoza works out and the offensive line works out and the defense continues to get stops like they did a year ago, it's still about winning games. It's still about that schedule. And at the end of the year, if we're talking college football playoff, we're talking building a resume. And there's 3 opportunities. You think only 2 for Indiana to truly do that in 2025.
They can't lose to Illinois, but in my opinion, because they got the benefit of the doubt last year and didn't play real well at Notre Dame, that Illinois game is you just can't lose. You'll get credit for it, but very little. Yeah. They have to win at least one of. Come hell, come high water, Oregon or Penn State. Those games are on the road. Yeah. They're not going to get the benefit of the doubt this year. They're not. So they go 10-2. You think, oh, they're in. Not if those losses, especially if they're double digits at Penn State, double digits at Oregon, that would not bode well for Indiana's chances. They'll be in a good bowl, but I bet you it's not the playoff. That would. Well,
I want to talk more about those games because Mendoza, Fernando Mendoza, that is a huge reason and hopefully would be a huge reason that Indiana pulls off one of those upsets, plus just wins the games that you're supposed to. We talk about Fernando Mendoza and some other transfers right after this here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, which is only a couple of days away. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling for an MVP or maybe a long shot division winner or ready your crown to a Super Bowl champion before the season even begins, this is your moment. Look, if you think the Chicago Bears are going to win the NFC North. They're not, but you can put money on that if you wanted to. FanDuel will do that and give you pretty good odds on FanDuel Futures Day. Maybe Josh Allen is MVP or whatever the case may be. August 26th is the day for you. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is only one day and one day only. FanDuel, it's time to play your game. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. He is Brian Smith, host of the Portal Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, also a recruiting expert, which we're getting to here in just a little bit. But you talk about winning on the road at Oregon or on the road at Penn State. I have been on the record as saying I'm with you. I think winning one of those games is super crucial. I feel like the Oregon game is easier, in quotations, maybe more winnable than the Penn State game, just from the talent perspective and the environment. Neither one will be easy, but if you had to give the Hoosiers a chance, at least right now, which one would you pick?
Oregon. Dante Moore has a great upside, but he's barely played that much in college football. He was my number 1 recruit in the class of 23. Like, he was that good, but he just hasn't played much. If they catch him at the right day, they're in good shape, but Oregon's wide receiver group is nasty. So he's going to have a lot of help. And they've got the transfer in at running back from Tulane. They're massive up front on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And Autzen Stadium is about as friendly as a polar bear that has had his toes stepped on. So it's a difficult task, but it's called the Big Ten Conference and one of the best conferences in the country for a reason. If Indiana doesn't make it, they don't make it. But here's the side point. Building football programs is kind of like federal government. It's a bureaucracy. I know that's not what anybody wants to hear, but it's slow. Mm-hmm. You're not going to build really fast. I know that we're in the most impatient society in the world, but it is what it is. You have to play these kind of games, get good at doing them before you win them. I mean, they did not play well at Ohio State last year. Did that really surprise anybody? Probably not. Did they really play that well at Notre Dame? Not really. They had some moments, but they shot themselves in the foot about 20 times. You can't do that and play quality competition. The more you play in those kinds of environments, in those games, the more likely you're going to get notoriety for it and respect get better. Eventually you'll win one. But look at it this way. Penn State completely out recruits Indiana every year. When was the last time Penn State won a road game that you gave a crap about?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, decade.
Yeah.
Literally, it's Penn frickin' State. It is hard to win in these environments. They can't win at Ohio State or Michigan. Those are the only two games their fan base care about. Literally.
Still can't win them. Yeah. I mean, that's why people are saying James Franklin's on the hot seat, even with the best roster in college football.
Yeah, that, by the way, shut up. Those are
You don't think so? You think it's not truly title or bust there at Happy Valley?
That's just dumbest thing ever. But anyway, who are they going to hire? I mean, come on, get out.
Yeah.
But the point is still the same. Indiana will move up in their program, win or lose. Of course, the objective is to win now, blah, blah, blah. They just can't go up. They can't go to Autzen and lose 38-7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not only would you screw your chances of going to playoff, that is your next curve to get around in recruiting. That is
competing in the big games.
Correct. They need to see it. Like today's society, even youngsters, they want to see it.
Yeah.
Like if Ohio State lays an egg in a game, they've got enough cachet. It doesn't matter. Notre Dame does. They got enough. Penn State, Georgia, they've been there. So that's different. Indiana's only done it 1 year. They have to be like a one-score game. Worst case scenario for one of those games, 5 minutes to go. If you get beat 31-24 at Penn State, nobody's going to scream at you.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It just can't get bounced. Like it can't be a runaway, and they got to play competitively. I think it will help recruiting. I think it'll help with the national media, and it'll solidify Indiana as a program that you can't really just assume is going to take that step down. Like, okay, these guys are going to be here. That's the difference.
It's respect is earned, not given, right? I mean, that's basically what's happening here with Indiana. And I'm with you on that. And so thankfully in those big games, whether Illinois, and who I think could easily be a top 10 team by the time that game comes around. Heck, they're ranked 12th already in the preseason, whether it's the Illinois game, road games at Oregon or Penn State, or any of those other sneaky games at Iowa, home against UCLA. Like those games could be tricky. You've got a guy who's going to be running the offense in Fernando Mendoza, who has been there before and won some big games. I know he played at Cal and the team was terrible around him, but he went on the road and beat an SEC team, Brian. You can't make that up. I don't care if it was Auburn who went, 5-7 or something last year. Fernando Mendoza is the real deal. And if he is what we think he is, Indiana can, in my opinion, go on the road and get one of those big-time wins.
That's the key. I've seen Mendoza play behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football. You were at that game. Like, Cal stinks.
Yeah.
Their offensive line specifically. Like, they got some skill talent. Their tight end just went to Texas. Quarterback just went to Indiana. Running back just went to Oklahoma. Like, another running back went to UCLA. Like, they had players that they can block anybody.
Right.
They're awful up front. So, and even with that said, I was looking at the quarterback stats nationally yesterday. The only guy that was a freshman or sophomore with any significance in like the top 30, Mendoza.
Yeah.
So he was that guy. And as a true sophomore, not a redshirt sophomore, like second year out of high school, very few high school quarterbacks make a dent as a freshman. I get that. But even sophomores, there aren't many. His acumen added with the skill talent, like Surratt is one of the better. Nobody talks about him, by the way. It's one of the better receivers. I know. No, nobody really talks about him. That combo is going to be as good as it gets in the Big Ten this year. I guarantee you, they have the coaching staff to do it. My only question is something you brought up earlier, and it still needs to be proven. They've got transfers. They're talented. Do they work together on the offensive line? Skill spots at Indiana are going to be fine. If they've got the O-line, that offense is going to be a pain in the butt. Defensively, you still have a ton of guys. Wheeler and some of these other guys, they got, again, maybe the best pass rusher, edge guy in college football. You got Fisher. You got Pons. This is a good team. If Oregon or Penn State's off that day, they can lose. If they play their A games at home, are they going to lose? Probably not. But Mendoza, with all those pieces around him, why couldn't they win? You know what I mean? They could be 9-2 going into the Purdue game, and that could be a nice 63-7 win for the Hoosiers and go to the playoff. So that's how I see it.
I love the mentality. Why not? I mean, why not Indiana? Because again, I told you, everybody else is saying, nope, not going to happen. No way that it's possible for Indiana to do it again. And I get it, but the roster is good enough. That's my thing. The roster is good enough. And I said, Brian, I think if it all comes together, the roster this year could be better than the roster we saw last year, top to bottom, because of some of the transfer portal additions, because of the guys in the trenches, if they all work out. I know that's a big if, but running back by committee between Kalen Black and Roman Hemby and Lee Beebe Jr., the UAB transfer. Wide receiver 3 is kind of out there, but you've got a Cal kid who's coming over, plus some other guys who could step up, and 2 transfer tight ends with Noah Kowski and then Holden Stays coming in from Tennessee. It's just going to be a matter of when, not if, for the Indiana offense. And when I tell you I'm not worried about the Indiana defense, there is not a single game where I'm stressed that the Indiana defense can't get it done. The talent and the roster is not the issue at IU.
The only thing I wish, and this is for every team, is they had like one more defensive tackle. There's no dominant position.
Yeah.
But that's being really picky. I think the starting talent will be good, but nobody has enough depth. There's always a shortage of those guys.
Yeah.
I don't think many people are going to want to throw against Pons. I don't think many people are going to really want to deal with Fisher, etc. They have really good football players.
Yeah.
Need to see how the depth works out, some of the transfers and all that. But you got to give the coaching staff a lot of credit too for last year. Mixing and matching like that, they did more of it than what Florida State did in 23, if that's possible. Like, I didn't think anybody could do more than what Florida State did in 2023. Of course, that bombed on them the next year, but you got to give them credit for the year before.
Sure.
Indiana was last year's portal king. They just slayed it. So they have to be given, in my opinion, their due respect until otherwise proven.
Other than the Illinois, Oregon, and Penn State game, which again, those are the 3 that everybody seems to highlight from the outside looking in, a game that is on this schedule, Brian, that could sneak up on the Hoosiers, that they can't fall asleep at the wheel if they want to come out with a win. Road game in Iowa, home games against Michigan State and UCLA, at Maryland, home for Wisconsin, and at Purdue. One game that's not the big 3 that the Hoosiers have to be ready for.
The one that would bother me, and this is historically, as somebody that grew up in Indiana, went to Indiana, it would be Michigan State.
Yeah.
And there's 2 reasons. Number one, Michigan State usually beats Indiana, and Aiden Childs has an NFL arm. He threw a bunch of dumb picks last year as his first year as a starter, like terrible. He's going to be a lot better. And they got Nick Marsh at wide receiver. That guy's a flat-out NFL player. He'd be gone after this year if he was eligible to leave. He is not. You got to be 3 years removed from high school. If Childs is on that day, that's a problem. And here's the other part. This is just college kids. I don't care if you tell them you're going to cut their hands off. You are not going to get the attention of the IU players the same for Michigan State as you do for games like Penn State, Iowa. That's just college kids. If you don't believe me, go watch the tape of Northern Illinois against Notre Dame last year.
Yeah.
Notre Dame plays their A game. They destroy Northern Illinois. They didn't even show up. So those are the kinds of games. UCLA a little bit too. They've got some talent, but should Indiana win that game? Yeah. Home game against the team we beat last year on the road. You're not going to get them all the way up. Can you play and win your clunkers? That's an old saying in sport. We're going to find out how much respect Mendoza has and other leaders on offense and Fisher and those guys on defense, because one of these games is going to be 13-13 at half. And ESPN's going to be like, what's going on in Bloomington? It's going to happen.
Yeah. Do
you win that game? Those teams are the ones that don't make the playoff. Indiana won all those games last year, and like in the second half, they'd put their foot on the gas and crush people. Maybe that mentality was unbelievable. It was the best in the country.
Yeah.
Can you do that again in 2025?
All those games are crucial for Indiana to make it back to the college football playoff, and that has helped them in recruiting already. But what if they do it again? Huge opportunities on the recruiting trail. We talked to Brian Smith, our recruiting expert, about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, but maybe you've even tried them and they just didn't really work for you. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to get Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours to kick in, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If the traditional options haven't worked for you, Rugiet might just be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. He is Brian Smith, our recruiting expert here at the Locked On Podcast Network. And we love talking Indiana football recruiting because, Brian, it's a thing now. It exists, and people have to be aware of that. And we've brought you on several times to talk about that. And look, this Indiana team in terms of the 2026 class has pretty much been floating around a top 30 class. It changes by the day, but overall, it's been around a top 30 class, and they have a chance to add to that. Seems like they're in a solid spot with 22 commits, but now you're talking 2027, 2028, and beyond. And with some of these home games this year, Indiana's got a really good chance to make a good impression.
This is a massive opportunity. You got the 3 cupcakes at the beginning of the season, which are garbage, but I digress. Yeah. I understand why they do it, because they want butts and seats for revenue. I get it.
For recruiting, can you go in on that for just a second, just for recruiting? Because I'm not a fan of it from the product and the fan standpoint. Right. I think it's terrible. But from the recruiting, can you hit on that just really quick?
It's just getting kids on campus. Okay. There is no way around FaceTime with parents, the high school coaches, etc. If you're going to play garbage teams, you got to take advantage with the recruiting. The problem is, while you're playing those games, are you going to Indiana against a directional school, or to South Bend when Notre Dame plays Texas A&M? Ohio State,
no brainer. Yeah, it's a no brainer.
Ohio State, Texas, first weekend. Where you go? So it's difficult. But to that point, maybe the best player in the state of Indiana in decade plus is in the 27 class, Monson Sales from Lawrence North. He measured it at the Rivals 5-star camp at 6'4.5", 210, with hands like a linebacker at over 10 inches. He's a future top 10 pick. Those kind of, you got to get these kind of kids on campus. There's 2 or 3 kids in Illinois that are elite. Can you get any of them on campus? Detroit, Louisville, etc., Cincinnati. I don't know which kids it will be, but I've got to see the list and see not just a bunch of 3-star. They got to start getting some of the higher kids now. You went to the freaking playoff. You got to take advantage of it. I don't want to hear any, we're doing good. This is a good point. No. Recruiting rankings do matter a lot. Look at the teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. So if they can get that next step up, like the 27 class, the first, like Jace Brewer, Sales, and some other guys in the state, that safety from Warren Center, they can just get those kids on campus just from the 27 class. That would show me that things are in the right direction. And then, of course, you want to solidify 26. There's still kids thereafter. You want to get your commitments on campus, all of that in those first 3 games. And then, of course, the Illinois game should be the creme de la creme. Late September, early October in Bloomington is pretty dope. As somebody who went to school there, I'm biased, but I mean, it's a beautiful campus. Yeah. If you don't get a ton of kids to come to that game, you have failed. So I'll be shocked if that's not the case. And to that point, the Illinois game ought to be a lot of fun. Like I went on record saying I think Illinois will win if I had to pick, but that game ought to be just down to the wire. Regardless, recruits should love it. Look, Indiana is if you're going to make the playoff, you need to win that game. You need to believe you're going to win that game. You need to bring the recruits to show that you're going to win that game. All the above. That's what I'm looking at. So the visits aren't just the 26 kids. It's 27. It's 28, which from talking to you before the show, they're doing.
Yeah.
That's how a real football program operates. And kids from PA, this staff was just in Virginia. They should have Virginia kids like the whole 9 yards. Those first 5 or 6 weeks when the weather in Indiana is still doable for recruits, man, you got to bring them out. You got to really, really bring them out. And if they do, you'll see dividends for years and years to come.
Well, the Illinois game, I mean, on paper right now, without a doubt, is the biggest home game of the year for Indiana. Yeah. So you're right. I mean, you've got to hit some big kids, get them on campus. And you and I have talked before. I've asked you this question, how much a win or a loss in those big games truly matters at the end of the day. I think you've said not all that much. I mean, could it sway a kid or two? Sure. But it's more about the environment, the stadium, the fans, and hopefully kids are able to see, and this is displayed, the investment that Indiana football has put into the program in the last 12 months because of Curt Cignetti, who basically walked in and said, yeah, you're going to do this, this, and this, and then he backed it up. So hopefully those are the things, too, that Indiana is able to display on these official visits, which, by the way, in the first couple of weekends, nearly 30 kids will be here. 9 or 10 different states are represented in those first few weekends. So that's pretty incredible for Indiana, if you ask me.
That is really impressive. Again, this is what it looks like. Oregon didn't get to be in Oregon by just suddenly beating Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Texas for kids. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
Now they're the most popular team in the country for recruits. Everybody at least wants to visit Oregon. It is a process. It took them about 30 years. It is a process.
Yeah, let's not go down that road. 30 years.
Yeah, I mean it's
a little long, Brian. That's a little long.
I know, but I mean it wasn't even after they went to the playoff in 2014, they still hadn't hit their crescendo yet. It takes a long time. So this season for Indiana to be at this pace, they're ahead of what Oregon did, and they don't have Phil Knight as a booster. Okay. Phil Knight is the all-time greatest booster. It is not close. So that he runs freaking Nike. I mean, I don't know what do you say. The point is, they have a chance to close the gap on talent, just raw, unadulterated high school prep talent. Look at the Final Four last year in the playoff. You know how many transfers they took combined? Penn State, Texas, Notre Dame, and Ohio State? 35 last year. Combined. Indiana took almost that in a year. Yeah. If you're going to win, you got to get down to the point where you're taking about 10 or 12 a year. Indiana's still a long way from where they are to be in a premium position. These weekends, that's how you get it done.
Folks, listen to him. He is the recruiting expert at the Locked On Podcast Network. Brian Smith, also the host of the Portal Podcast. Check it out every single day. However you find Locked On Hoosiers, you can find the Portal Podcast as well. Just type in the Portal Podcast. It's going to pop right up. He covers every team in the country, including the Indiana Hoosiers as well. Brian, as always, my friend, thank you so much for hopping on. Can't wait to talk to you throughout the season, and hopefully we're talking about another playoff appearance for the Hoosiers.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right, Hoosier fans, appreciate you being here, checking this out. We wrap up another week, and hey, we're back on Monday, and it's officially game week. We have a new episode for you then. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.